good things. One thing I do want to note before we get started is when you guys are logged into your GlobiFlow account, I always recommend when you click on this Help tab to actually gain access to the workspace that the GlobiFlow team has kindly set up within the Podio environment. And you can see by me accessing my account, I am a part of it right here. And it's just basically a centralized hub for all GlobiFlow users that are on Podio. They have the option to join this workspace. So you can see the GlobiFlow team has provided an area for a user forum, FAQ, possible issues, feature requests, new release logs, and lab experiments. So you can always come in here on Podio's end, and if there's a specific question or feature that you're looking into outside of doing search for it, you can always hit the magnifying glass icon here, and let's say that I want to know a little bit more about PDF templates. So it's going to comb through this whole workspace and try to find things that might be related to what I'm looking to do. So always a good resource to look into this workspace before you guys start seeking support, but we are always happy to help otherwise. Great. So just to kind of go over, some people that get signed up for this, might not even be too familiar with Podio. So I can, just go over the structure of Podio real quick before I jump into GlobiFlow's end. You do sign up for an organization on Podio where you create your workspaces to bring together, specific work groups. So in my instance, I have my organization and I have my workspaces within. In some cases, it could be, project management, sales management, maybe customer service, however you decide to design that. The whole purpose is that you have these workspaces with unique work groups within. And then you're creating Podio apps, which organize and give you an overview of work. The structure of the app is going to kind of determine what goes on within. So you can see in this project management workspace that we're going to be doing our demo from today, that I have an app to house my clients, the companies that the clients are for, incoming requests for projects, deliverable items, quotes, and meetings. A very simple setup, and as I mentioned, it's going to be a simple walkthrough. There are workflow abilities that Podio has where you can automate the creation of items or updating items, but you're very limited with advanced workflows that Podio offers itself to, where you can only have a condition of a category field. Podio, it has a lot of use that you can take from that, but the reason that people seek out a tool such as GlobiFlow is to kind of take it a little bit further. Maybe there's something where you're interested in PDF creation, whether it's for quotes or invoices or for some kind of heads up to a customer, sending PDFs for electronic signature. Again, GlobiFlow itself does offer integrations to other Citrix Cloud Service tools, which would be Write Signature, which is for document signing, and ShareFile for file storage, sharing, and backing up data to be able to access it remotely. And there are ways to get that set up if you have respective accounts with these. You guys can always reach out to us if you want to learn more information about that, but it's something that you can actually incorporate into your workflows. Other things that are pretty popular are the ability to send and receive emails, create update Podio items in a more controlled environment, I guess, than what Podio offers. You can trigger flows that are date specific, send messages internally. It also supports looping and if-then logic if you guys can understand how to get that set up. And you can also insert visual charts and graphs into workspaces, among many other things. So let's go ahead and get started. So initially when you sign up for Podio and GlobiFlow, it's actually going to be handled from a separate website, globiflow.com. It's a preferred partner of Podio, and we are the exclusive reseller of the product, as you guys know. And you're initially going to hit login if you are the contract owner of your Podio account. And it's going to ask to basically grant access to your Podio environment. And when you do that, it's initially going to have this little stage where it's going to be connecting to your organization and your workspaces within. And that's something that you need to note, is that this is an environment that's actually outside of Podio in a different tab that you're going to need to open. Another thing that's important as well is when you're making changes on Podio's end, and you're currently using GlobiFlow, you saw how I got to this view. It's very important to click this little tab down here that says Refresh from Podio. As small as it is, it's a very important button to remember. If I go and make a change to an app here that could affect a flow that I'm creating in GlobiFlow, I need to make sure to press this. So as you can see, it's now connected to my organizations. This is the one we're going to be using today, Evan George's org. And you can see as I click in, it's connecting to my workspaces. as you see here. So now I can select where I need these flows to be created. We're going to be working out of the project management workspace today. So you can see as I click in, there are some workflows that I've created. You can see associated to the Clients app, we have one flow. There's 3 and 3. So I can click in to see what the workflows are. And I can select a unique workflow to get a little more information on it. I can check the logs to see if the flow's not working, to see what's going on with it. These are things that can really help if you're submitting a support ticket to reference the logs prior. You can see the recipe of what it's generated of. So this one's pretty simple to assign a task, and each one's going to have its own kind of unique thing, its own unique ID, its own name. I can go in and copy this if I need to move it to another workspace. I can deactivate flows. I can delete flows, and I can also edit. So if I need to make a change, you're never stuck with a workflow at any time. And that's one of those things, just like what people love Podio for, is that you're never stuck. Things are never set in stone. You can go in and make adjustments. So if I click edit here, you can see this is the recipe of what my workflow is built off of. So they're all logic based. You have a trigger, a filter, and an action. So you could think of this as if, when, and then. So the trigger is obviously, in this case, I'm selecting when an item is updated. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply a filter here. In Podio's end, it's always asking you to select a field that's being changed. You can do the same here in GlobiFlow's environment, but you can actually do a little bit more with that. So for this instance, I was saying, if the create project, which is a category field I've properly added in my Podio item, has changed, and if I mark that as yes, then what do I want to do? So this kind of takes me to something that's very important that you guys need to take note of when you are using GlobiFlow. So if you are setting up your Podio items, let's just say, for instance, I'm going to go into my projects app here, and I have established a relationship field. If I'm going to be creating a flow from my projects app, and I want to get information from, let's say, this is related to my clients app, I want to get that reference client information. There is a flow that you guys are going to be using probably more than any other type of action that is called get referenced items. So you can see in my incoming request app, which also has a relationship, I've added this action, which is called get referenced items, and I want to get the reference client, which is just a relationship field. And the reason I'm selecting it as a forward direction, as you can see here, is that it's actually pointing towards my client's app, as this arrow is indicating. So it's a forward direction of relation. And I'm now selecting the field returning requester. So you can see if I jump back into my Podio item, what it would look like is that's the name of the relationship field that I added within if I go into my template. So I want to be able to take who is the returning requester, or who is this person that is coming in from the item. I can change that if I want to something else. So I can add these reference to say which field do I want it to get information from. And now I can do something like create a project. So I just wanted to show you guys that, but I'm actually going to walk through step by step what I've created here so you guys can see it. The environment of the demonstration today is a simple project request that a customer can submit. And then it's going to kind of trigger a few things. And what that means is we've initially set up a web form on Podio's end. And what a web form is it's basically a way to get Podio, data into Podio from an external source, such as a website. So whether you guys are familiar with this feature or not, you can create an app, any app in Podio, and you can actually go into the settings and establish a web form for that. It gives you a code that you can embed on your web page, or a shareable link that you can share any way you want. But you can see through the configuration, I've selected which fields from my app I want to be within. Great. And that's kind of the whole start for us here. So the first trigger that I have is that this is the associated web form. So I'm going to pretend that I am a first-time requester and not a returning requester. So I'll just do Globi Demo is our name for today. And I'll just put my email address so we can see what that would look like. And I don't need to put this in. And I'm just going to request, this is a category field, I'm going to request a website design project. And I'll say that I need this by the 5th. My description of needs are, obviously, in a real world, people would actually write something worthwhile here. And I'll say that my budget is $5,000. All right, so this is me filling out the web form. I'm essentially just creating an item in GlobiFlow and Podio. So, which one of these could be graphs? I think it's very subjective, but I will select that. I don't know if you guys want to consider that graphs. Let's see if that works. Lovely. All right, so I went ahead and requested the project. So we can now see on Podio's end that 3 things have now taken place. It's added a new client, a new incoming request is made, and it's actually assigned me a task as well. And these were all flows that I had actually set up on GlobiFlow's end. So if I go back into my project management environment or even check my notifications, you can see that it's created a client and it's also assigned a task. So the first flow that I've actually created here is a welcome email that I want to be sent. So the fact that I had my web form creating a new client, that means that it's creating a client in the client's app. So I decided to create a workflow here, as you can see. If I go into edit, you guys can see what this is built of. So I'm saying if a new item is created in my client's app, which is through that web form, no filters needed here. I just want to send an email. So the way that this works is it's an action that you're able to create. So if I hit the little plus button, there's a list of different items that you can have here. So the one that I chose was send email. So when you get that tab, it gives you these fields, and you're able to select tokens. And what it means by tokens, these are variables or fields from the Podio item itself. So if I click here, there's going to be a drop down. So client, so these are fields from the referenced or newly created client that they just filled that information out. So the fact that the client put in their email address, I want to send an email to whatever that email address is, and I just selected this here to reference that. I could also type in text if I knew every time I wanted this email to go to, you know, an actual email account. I could choose to attach files if I had files on my Podio item, and I can say who it's from. So I'm just going to pretend that this is from my demo company called G Test Org Alliance, and I want replies to be received at my email address. So I'm just pretending that this is like my company's inbox. And now it's going to say, you know, whatever the client's first name is that's filled out. As you can see, I've specified here, welcome to the club. And now I'm able to kind of customize the template of the email that I want to send. So you can see I used my own text, and the only thing I used from the actual Podio item itself, again, was the company first name. As you guys can imagine, you can use these variables in many different ways. So we can now look on my email account. There is that email that was received. I put my name as Globy, so it says, hey there, we appreciate you submitting a request. And that's kind of the first step. Obviously, you guys can take this a little bit further if you'd like. The next thing that you guys saw was that it did, if I go in, I can see the task that was assigned. I can see that it was this new incoming request that came in, website design for this first-time requester. I can see when it's needed by. I can see the budget. And now it's asking me to assign a project manager. So I'm going to assume that's what this field is. Let's say that I know internally that if it's a website design project that I need to assign Brett to this item. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'll mark off my task as complete. And now you can see in the activity that a task has now been assigned to Brett. So if I actually refresh my page here on Podio's end, you can see that Brett has a task to reach out and schedule a session. So what that's going to look like here is you can see that I have 3 unique flows that I've set up on GlobiFlow's end. The first one, if we take a look here, is a new request. So you can see I properly named them so I know how to go in and say what is happening here. So I'll go ahead and hit edit. And I'm going to say if a new item is created, so this means if someone submits a web form, I want to, and this was an action that I clicked called assign a task. And you can see if I select it, I could also assign a new task too. But you're selecting a user, either whether this is a workspace member, that means someone on your team that is a member of the workspace, or I can say request responsible. So that could be who is assigned to that field within the item here. And I can then put in, again, by using tokens, what I want the task summary to be. Task and Podio are just quick to-dos. So you can see this was a quick one for me to assign someone to reach out. The next flow that you guys did see was responsible assigned. So now I said if an item is updated and if the field responsible is changed, so that means when I clicked and assigned someone to the responsible field here, I now wanted to create a task, and that's where you see. So it was assigned to Brett because I did make him responsible on this item. and it's just to reach out for a session and for a discovery call. So in this world, the idea, obviously I'm doing it quicker, but Brett would reach out to the customer by getting their information from this item, and he could schedule a client meeting. This is a relationship to another app. So let's just say that we have our test meeting, and we'll say we talked to them on the phone and this was the day, and we're going to have it at 2 p.m. and I'll go ahead and make Brett instead of me. Obviously it's showing me because I'm the one who created it, and then I'll just go ahead and save and return. So no flows really associated here. So we're going to go ahead and say that he scheduled the session, and the next idea in our workflow here is that we're thinking, okay, this session is basically to decide if you want to schedule a project with them or not. So let's say that Brett is satisfied. The next flow that we have is if we're going to go ahead and hit the yes button here to say that we want to create a project. So what this is going to do now for us is it should be triggering the creation of project items. And you can now see in the activity that a project was created and associated deliverables were created as well. So I'll click into the new project, and I can see that there are 2 related deliverables. So in our company, the way that we run things is that I'm going to go ahead and pop these deliverables open. These are just related items. And I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, this looks like, for me, it's going to cost 200. And I'm just going to fill this out, and this one's going to cost 500. And I'll close these out. And so the flow that you guys just saw here was actually a great feature that GlobiFlow has, where I had a workflow that essentially triggered another workflow. So the fact that Brett clicked yes to create a project, it created a project, but it also created 2 deliverable items that were associated to that created project. So that's called a manual flow in GlobiFlow. This is something that is going to be very useful for you guys, another feature that Podio itself does not offer. Where a workflow is, I mentioned, essentially triggering another workflow. The logic that we have here is that we're going to have actually the secondary flow, so the project creating the deliverables created first. So you can see, new website design project, create deliverables. If I go into edit to see the form of how this was built, the trigger that I actually selected was called manually by another flow. So let's just pretend that I'm going to go into add a new flow here. I'm going to hit add new and hit new flow. And you can see that these are the types of triggers that I want to select for my workflow. Maybe it's based off of the creation of an item. Maybe it's based off of updating an item, a Podio item. Maybe it's based off of adding a comment to the item, or something specific with the date field. As you guys can imagine, it would be like, if I have an applied date field for deadline, and I could specify, if it's 2 days before the deadline, then send this out. The one that we selected was manual flow. So this basically means it's going to be triggered by another action. So again, what you see is, if the project type is website design in my projects, if I click yes, then there's that get reference again. I want to get my information from my reference client to the project and their company, and I want to now create these deliverables where I've defined the fields. And all I did for create a deliverable is, if I hit the plus for the action, as you guys can see these many different beautiful options of what you can do, I went ahead and selected create item. So now it links to your Podio account, and I can say that I wanted to create an item in my project management workspace in my app called deliverables. So same thing here. It gives me the fields that are required from my app, but I could also add another field and set what I want in those. So maybe I want to have a deadline, and I want that to be set to maybe if it's things from the actual project due date. So I could say the project due date, minus 6 days. And I know the deliverable title is Globi test, and I can use a token from the actual project. So maybe project name. The related project is that current one. So you can see that's essentially what I did here. I can assign a deliverable owner. So this is a secondary flow, and that's what a manual flow is. So this is actually being triggered from this item, which is called request idea approved. So what I said was, when an item is updated, if the create project field has changed, and if it equals yes, which is what we did, Again, I'm getting the reference client and I'm getting the reference company. You can see it's a forward-facing relationship. And I'm also following the relationship to the company. So you can actually take it a step further where I'm jumping into the related client, and now I want to search that client app and look for the related company. And then I essentially just created a new project. As you can see, it's taking from the fields of the item. I want to take the project type of what they selected, which was just a category field, as you saw in the web form. And the client's name is the name of the project that I've defined. The agenda is whatever their description of needs were. Again, these are just fields from the Podio item that you can select as you're creating it. And I was hitting add fields to add more unique fields. But the last thing that you saw is that there was an action here, now that I've already established the other flow, which is called trigger another flow from another item. So you can see what that means here is I was able to trigger a flow on a related item, which is an action that I can take. And so I'm able to select from my projects app. It's a reverse relationship because you can see my projects are pointing towards my requests. And there it is. The flow that I wanted to create is looking now. It's looking for a workflow that I've already created in my projects app, which was that one that we were just looking at, which was the new website design create project. So I am telling this workflow to also trigger a workflow in the projects app as well. So this is something that you guys can use to your advantage. As you can imagine that I've created a project and its associated deliverables. So let's say now that I've went in on Podio's end and I've created the deliverables and I've added what I think the costs will be. In this stage now, we're thinking that we want to go in, again, this is just a category field that I've defined, that I want to go into phase one, which is client approval of project scope. So what this means is that I want to, let's say in our world, generate a PDF document and send it to the client to be approved. So I'm going to go ahead and click here and see what happens. Again, in Podio, it's always going to update what's going on. You can see on the projects app, it's now added a PDF to my item. So if I go ahead and refresh the page here, you can see there's a PDF document, project scope, website design. So that is the next kind of flow that we have from the projects, which is phase one, generate PDF. So how I created this was if I update a project, which I did, and if the project before was equal to not set, and now equal to client approved. So let me just delete these to show you guys how I got here. So when an item is updated, I can now select filters. So this could be which field within my item is being changed or which fields are being changed. So I'm going to go ahead and select the filter that I know that I just updated the project phase. So I'm saying if project phase has changed. And I want to make it very specific by saying if nothing was selected before, and now if phase one is selected, then only trigger this flow. So I'm going to go ahead and add another filter and say field previous value match. So that's saying what was in that field before. So and if the project phase before was equal to not set, meaning nothing was selected. And now I'll add another filter, which is field value match. So if the project phase is now equal to phase one, then again, there's the get reference. So I'm getting the reference client from the project and I'm getting the reference company. Again, as you guys can see, this is something that you're going to be using a lot because I want to be able to use client information and company information, whether it's their name, their email address. And the only way I can pull that information on my projects app is by getting the reference, pulling that information from the related item. And I'm also going to be getting those reference deliverables so that I can pull whatever the costs were that I put in myself. So there's a flow here that you can do on Podio's end to create a detailed table. And what that means is that you can collect items from a view or referenced fields, and you can add that and create a table. So that's actually an action that you can see as you're scrolling down here that I did, where I selected detailed table. It's going to say, as you can see, to select, so I can delete this so you guys can see, that I decided to use it from my associated deliverables, and I wanted to use the fields deliverable title, cost, and deadline. What that looks like is it's now looking through my deliverables app and it's saying select some options. Which fields do I want to add into this table? I want to add the title as part of it. I want to add the cost, and I want to add the deadline. And now the next thing I did was another action, which was called Generate PDF. So it opens up. You can actually style and customize this PDF to fit your needs. Again, by using text. So I'm giving the file name project scope for whatever the project name is. I can choose the orientation of how I want this PDF document to be generated. I'm just doing a simple letter. And I want to save this to my Podio item. If I have my ShareFile account linked as well, I could elect to share this to my ShareFile folder. But for the sake of our demonstration right now, I'm just going to say it's assigned to the Podio item. And that's what you guys saw, where it actually saved it to the item directly. And the next thing it does is I just did a very simple, this actually does take HTML. If you can click on this little source code button here, you can do custom styling. You know, you can add hyperlinks within. As you can see, this image that I've posted, it needs to be a publicly hosted image. So if you have a public, an image hosting website, you need to make sure that it's on there first. So I just took the URL, gave it a name, and then it went ahead and applied it there. And then I just added standard text. And you can see I also applied the table. So when I created the table, it now becomes an option when I click this little token selector, where I can pull items from the project. These are fields within. I can pull fields from the reference client because I got referenced. I can pull fields from the reference company because that's something that I referenced. I can also pull fields from the reference to deliverable because I referenced that there. And then you can also see that there's the HTML table of deliverables. So that is another option since I had created it. So I went ahead and added that to my PDF as well. And then I selected another action. So let me just click this Actions tab so you can see at the very bottom, if you do have your Right Signature account associated to your Podio account, I could say send via Right Signature. There is another option to send templates, but that's, again, if you've created a template on this, which we can go over at a later time. But I said I want to attach, as you can see, the most recent PDF. So the fact that I just created this in the previous action and I assigned it to the Podio item, that is considered the most recent PDF. So I'm sending it to the client name, again, just pulling the tokens. I'm sending it to their email address, and I'm giving it a subject of whatever the project type is, project scope sign-off, project name, and I just said, please sign this document. So all of that just happened. We can see if we check my email, because I did use my email for example. Evan Georges has sent you a document, website design, project scope sign-off. So let's open this up, and this is now sent through Right Signature. So when I open this to review it, you can see there's my logo, there's my text, and here's that detailed table where it actually applied the deliverable titles, the costs that I applied, and the deadline. So me as a customer, I can see this and see if I'm satisfied. Again, very simple version, but I'm going to go ahead and sign off just by using my mouse, and I'm going to submit the signature. And now you can see on Right Signature's end, it is now telling me that this is complete, and I will receive a follow-up email with a kind of a signature receipt of that, which is very cool to have. And you can see there it is completed. And now you can hear on Podio's end, a couple new actions just took place. So now that it's signed, it actually did an @mention. So on Podio, this is a way to single out a user. So I @mentioned Brett because he is listed as the project manager. GlobiDemo, which is just the name of the person, signed off on the project scope. Time to get to work. And now it also attached the signed PDF. It changed my project phase to 2, and it attached the file, as I mentioned, to the Podio item. So if I refresh the page here on my project, you can see there's the signed document, there's the PDF. Again, these are things, flows that you could trigger to send and save to ShareFile if you have a respective account. And it moved me to phase 2. So you could imagine maybe that would trigger something else to take place. But that was the very last flow that I have, where I could add a flow here, and I want that based off of a document being signed. Again, this is only available if you have a Right Signature account associated with your Podio account. And you can see that's what I created here. So I'll go into Edit. When a Right Signature document is signed, and if the project phase is equal to phase 1, so that's how I know it's unique to the phase 1 signature. Maybe if I have other documents being sent out at later phases, then I want to get the reference client, and I want to add a comment. So you can see add a comment here is what I did. And you can see by doing the tokens to select, it says project manager @mention, and that's what I did here. So it's going to say whoever the project manager is on this item, and you can see it's Brett, do an at mention for them. And again, that's how Brett would be notified of this taking place. So I said at mention manager, and as you see, I'm just going to be copying my text. And now, because I did the reference get reference, I want to get the reference client's full name, and then I just type it in text that said signed off on the project scope, time to get to work. And then the next thing was I updated the item, which is, as you can see here, I selected that I wanted the project phase to be, and these are the 3 options, to go to deliverables live. And now I wanted to also change the status, these are just fields for my projects app, to in progress. And that's exactly what I did here. So that was a very simple flow, but you guys can see, you know, there were about 6 or 7 different flows that I'd created there. Obviously, over time, when you're doing this, it's going to be mindless because it's more so just happening. So me going through it is more so just for you guys to have an understanding of how or why I did that. But that is basically the most of what I was able to set up for the demonstration today. I think that's kind of a really great starting point for you guys to understand a lot of the basic types of flows that you guys can create.
Thanks a lot, Evan. That was a really great demonstration. So some questions have come in through, and I'll begin with the first question that came from Mark. Mark was asking, can you send email to multiple email addresses? So Mark, when you say that, I'm assuming that you're referring to multiple email addresses on a single app item. You can do that. You would need to add a loop action, which would then go through the item and sort of goes through each item and then does all the actions and before moving on to the next item. If you were referring to sending an email out to many people at once, so perhaps you had a weekly newsletter or something like that, or a weekly update that you would like to send, you can do that as well. In fact, I think there is a flow that Evan can show you how to set it up right now. There was a flow in GlobiFlow. Evan, maybe you could show him the by date flow.
Sure.
So the way that you would need to do this, Mark, is you would first need to create a view on Podio and save the view, and then assume that that is the view. So a view on Podio, right? So it's a filtered view in an app item. So if you had a contact app or something like that. So Evan will show you now in this clients app that we set up over here. I saved a view called active clients for monthly newsletter. And you can see that is a filtered view that we've saved, okay? So I want to now be able to send a newsletter every, say, month to these active clients and just give them an update on, you know, any special offers that we may have, etc. So what I did on GlobiFlow now is I triggered a flow by date. So it's not necessarily coming from an app. The flow by date lives all the way at the top above webhooks. And when you click on that, it will ask you to create a new flow. And then it asks you from where. So it asks you to select an app. So what I did is I wanted the flow to trigger every day. But the filter that I applied is only if the day of the month is equal to the last day of the month. So if you scroll all the way down, that's an option. So that way I know that on the last day of the month, I will send an email out to some customers by getting the Podio view first as an action. And then the following action would be to send the email. So as you can see here. And what this
what happens here basically is it's just another option that we're able to select as an action. So get items from Podio. So what you're telling this is that you are trying to pull in a specific view. So the fact that Brett saved that view in the client's app, I can now see that these are people that need to be sending, you know, get sent that newsletter. So I can now search my project management clients, and now it's saying to look, what view am I doing? And there's that active clients for monthly newsletter that Brett was talking about. And all that Brett did to save this was he went into the client's app and he clicked this filter icon to apply a filter. And it was very simple. He just wanted active clients. And then he just hit save and he gave it this name. And that was all he did. It became an active view. And that's what he did here, where he was able to now pull the view up here. And then he did the next set, which was send an email, which we guys had seen. and he's using those tokens to get the referenced client email. So now it's going to take whatever the email addresses are within that view, and now it's going to say who it's from, and then he typed up a nice email to be sent from there.
And then the second question that Mark had for us was, let's have a look. I'm missing reverse flow. Can you explain again? Mark, was that where we had a flow that triggers another flow, or was it the get referenced items when it's a forward or reverse?
It looks like Mark actually had went offline.
Okay. Oh dear. All right, Steve's got a question. Stephen, can you show the PDF? Yeah, shall we show the PDF, Evan?
Yeah, the PDF was exactly what you saw that I signed, but I can actually go in and we'll take a look at it. So let me just go into this project that we have here. So we can take a look at the signed or the unsigned. If I go into the unsigned, we can see there's just that simple PDF that I had generated. That was the document that I had signed. If I click to see the actual signed version, it's the same thing, but now it has this signature receipt from Right Signature. There's the signature. So now we can see that it's been officially signed off by the party. There's the verified email address of who signed it. There's kind of a digital fingerprint to make it legalized, the timestamp of everything that took place, and the document reference number. So this basically makes it official. And they're both attached to the item here.
And then Kat had a question, can a template request more than a signature? For instance, a form to fill out and sign?
Yeah, so there's going to be unique ways to get this filled out. So let's say, again, this makes sure you have to have a Right Signature account established. But if I jump into my flow here, let's just say this one that I had that sent it out. So I just did a simple PDF, and now I said send via Right Signature. So there's actually this feature. So if you just say send via Right Signature, all it's going to do is stamp a signature box on the very bottom of it. There's this cool feature called text tags. If I check here, I'm going to go into info to show you guys. So it's a way to add certain blocks. So into my document here is what I would need to reference. So the fact that you see in this example that here's the final where it's saying, consulting effective of, they've actually put these brackets and put DAR. And what that means, if you read the description up here, is you're able to describe what type of field you are creating. So D would mean it's a date field. A means that it's a first party who needs to be signing it. And R makes it required. So the fact that you're actually adding this into the box is you're making it a required date field. So what that would look like is if I put and now all I'm doing with these spaces is just defining how big I want the field to be. So you can see DAR and applying the brackets. So what that looks like, again, if we look into the text tags, is it's going to be between the parties. So I've now defined that this is where a date field needs to go. So that's something to take into consideration, that text tags are here. Now, if there was another option that you guys did see, if I hit the action, where instead of sending via Right Signature, that I can send a Right template. And that actually looks at my Right Signature account at custom templates that I've built myself. So if I actually log into my Right Signature instance, let me just refresh to make sure that I'm actually logged in here. I can go into my account and I can actually set up a reusable template. So I can browse my computer for a document, whether it's a PDF, Word doc, whatever that may be. So let's just say, for our sake here, I'll just pull in the terms and conditions of Podio. So now it's adding it and applying it. So it's basically importing this PDF to be modified and changed. You're not changing the text on the PDF, but more so you're able to customize unique fields from Right Signature's end to be used as one of these Right templates. So it's converting it. You can see there's 11 pages. I have unique things here that I can select. I can choose roles if I want to add more signers, but let's just say that this is the approver that needs to sign it. And the name of this is Globi Demo for All. I'm just giving it a name so I can see. So now, it pulls in this PDF document, and now I can use these fields. So if I want to add a signature box, I can just click and drag it over. If I want to add a text box where they're actually typing in text themselves, so let's say that you have your own PDF already that has name, and you want to give them the ability to write their own name, I could type in this text box, and I just pretend that that's name, and I can actually call it, change the name. So this would be name box, and I know that I want to give the person the ability to fill that out. And there I need to date stamp it, so let's just say that that's not there. I would be able to do a date box where I could fill that in. But there's also another way on this template where you have this merge option, where you can actually drag this in on the template. In this merge box, let's say that I want this to be client name. So instead of having them type in the name, I want this to be unique to the person's name each time. So I'm actually going to delete this field. So I added this field in, and I'm just going to call it client name, and I'm going to save it. So I'll just create this template just to show you guys what it looks like. So what it looks like on GlobiFlow's end is if I just back out here. So I'll just go into this flow again and hit the action. So this time again, we're going to do write template. So you can see there's that one that I just created. It's now a template from my actual Right Signature account. So it's not taking into consideration this PDF. It's actually taking a template that I customize. There's that merge field for client name. So I can actually pull in a field from the Podio item itself. So I could say, you know, full name of client is going to populate that, and the approver name is the client again. So I could put their full name, and their approver email would be the client's email address. So instead of sending out this document now that I had to, if you don't want to have to use these text tags that you would have to add into your PDF, that you actually have a template that's being signed. So these are actually the two options for getting signatures with Right Signature and GlobiFlow. So I hope that answers your question.
So Jessica has a question. She writes, I didn't understand the difference between the forward and the reverse flows either. I don't have a mic, so I'd need more clarification. I can type additional questions.
Of course, I'm happy to go over that for you guys, or unless you want to talk about it, Brett.
Go ahead, Evan.
Okay, so the only reason that I choose forward or reverse, if I go into edit here, you can see that there is a relationship kind of image here. I could probably open it in a new tab for you to look at. But you can see, so I am, and let me just zoom out. I am creating this from my projects app. So what I'm looking at here is a view of my projects app. And now it's showing me all of these different apps. It's now telling me that my projects app is pointing towards my client's app, it's pointing towards my company's app, and it's pointing towards my incoming requests app. So what that means is that in my projects app, I have a relationship field in there that is related to my clients, related to my companies, and related to incoming requests. Now you can see in these apps, they're actually pointing towards the project. So what that means is in the templates of these individual apps, they have relationship fields that are actually related to the project itself. So that means that it's reversed because the project was established before. So you think it's forward because it's pointing towards it. And what that means, again, if I go into my projects, I'll just go into the template so you can see what that looks like. So you can see in this image, it's pointing towards requests, companies, and clients. That just means that I, in my project template, have 1, 2, 3 relationship fields. And you can see if I click in here, that this is related to my incoming requests app because I want that to show a related request. This one is related to my company's app, and this one's related to my client's app. So that means it's a forward relationship because it's going from my project to the company. The way it's reversed would mean that if I go into like my deliverables app, as you can see in this image, deliverables pointing towards projects, that means in the deliverables template, there is a relationship field to the projects app. So that's why it's considered reverse, because the project was created before the deliverables. So it's going in reverse to say, what are the deliverables that are already associated with this greater project? And that's why I would select reverse in that situation. So you can see on this get reference that it's pointing towards my clients and companies. So I made them forward because, as you can see in the image again, it's going toward those that I want to get. And then the fact that I had another one towards my deliverables, I made it reverse because as you can see, the deliverables app is pointing towards the projects app, which means, again, that the relationship is here, not here.
Does that make sense, Jessica?
I don't think she has a mic, but
Okay.
she can definitely type in a response if that's okay.
So Kat had another question about if it's possible to format the text in the PDF. So when it pulls in the variables from Podio, and you can definitely do that using the rich text editor, and you can also use CSS styling, and you can consult the GlobiFlow user manual for how to get started on the CSS styling if you know some if you have some CSS.
I can click Help Manual here, and I could say, let's just say formatting. There we go, advanced formatting for PDF detailed table. So here's actually something if you actually look up the GlobiFlow manual. Again, by clicking Help and going into Help Manual, I just search that. So maybe I just want to know more about PDF. So you can see that, okay, here it is, advanced formatting. So it actually gives me some good introduction to what that would look like. So again, whether it is, custom CSS that you are adding, source code, whatever that may be, this will give you a full example of how you can customize that yourself.
And it looks really technical and geeky here, and that's partly because it is. But the end result is something that looks pretty professional and well done. So, I mean, if you know somebody that can do that for you, then I would say to them, have a look at it because it is quite detailed. Yeah. So then, Jessica,
you guys can always reach out to us as well if you have specific needs. There are a lot of technical preferred Podio partners out there that can assist organizations with these types of setups if you guys have that idea. So that's also something to take into consideration.
And Jessica's also asking, the picture populates from Podio or within the workflow? So by picture, do you mean the little logo that's on the PDF? So that's something that you can add it on the PDF templates. So everything that you see on the PDF over there, except for the little blue tokens, is actually what is on the template and what will get sent out every time. So that logo over there
you can see this logo here. When I click, this gets highlighted. It's just showing me that I want to look into it. So basically, here's the source of where the image is coming from. I'll go ahead and copy this, and I'll open up a new tab and paste that link in there. So this is a publicly hosted image. And all I did, I mean, if you guys have a preferred site that you're using, whether it's PhotoBucket, I mean, you could even just look up, public image hosting. And by seeing that, all right, so this is the one that I just used, postimage.org. I browsed my computer for my pictures, and I looked up, I have a lot of weird images on here. We'll just use Puppy Monkey Baby, if you guys watch the Super Bowl. And I can now upload it, and it gives me this information. So I could say that I want to copy this direct link. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. So if I go back into GlobiFlow now, let's say that down here, I want to add that image. I can just paste that link in there now, and I can call this PMB logo just to say what it is. And now by hitting OK, there's the logo, and now it's part of my PDF. But the fact that I had to get it publicly hosted prior is the only way that it's going to be added here.
And then Jessica also had a question about the relationship, this little image that you see over there with the relationship. So this is, yes, it's Jessica, it's coming from Podio. So it just depends on where the relationship field is added in the app. So if there's two apps that are related, you add the relationship field in one of the two apps. And the app that you added to is where it's pointing toward the other app. So then you see that.
Well, that was what I showed you guys in the templates, where I jumped into the companies and the clients, or I jumped into deliverables and you saw that relationship. So this is connecting to your Podio account. So now it's just giving me a nice look at what is the direction of all of the relationships. So this is any possible connection to my projects app, because I'm looking at my project right now. So it's saying with my projects app up top, what is the direction of all of its related other apps in Podio? So these are all just different app names, as you can see here, and it's showing how they're connected. So it's more for your convenience to have this reference map.
Cool, guys. Do we have any more questions at all? I hope you guys at least learned something from this, and you'll go off after this webinar and have a little play on GlobiFlow now and start creating some flows. It doesn't have to be complicated. Start off with a small flow that maybe sends a test email or something like that, or creates an item or a task. And, as you start playing with it, you're going to get more and more curious. And as you do that, you're going to learn more and you're going to get more confident. And the whole point is so that you can start extracting value from your premium accounts, because GlobiFlow is quite powerful. It's really powerful at creating workflows, and it definitely takes your Podio account sort of to the next level. We have one more question from Angela, and she asks, did you end up recording this webinar?
Definitely did. As I mentioned, I will actually send this out in a follow-up email. So we'll convert the recording following the session, and we'll send it out to you guys.
You're welcome. Cool. Guys, if there's no more questions, then it's a wrap. Thanks for joining. It's really nice. We had a lot of people joining today. And if we get sort of good response from this, then this is definitely something that we could look maybe perhaps to host again in a couple of weeks' time. Or at least so that we can create some videos to share with you guys.
And I'll mention to you guys again, if you were interested in learning a little bit more about the right signature or share file integration, please go ahead and reach out to us. You can either send an email to myself or Brett. I don't know if you want to just type your email into the chat real quick, Brett, just so people can reach out if they're interested in learning more about that. So I'll just send that for you guys to reference. If you do want to learn more about that, I'm happy to get you guys connected with the proper party if you guys don't have access to those licenses yet. We do have some great bundling deals to kind of lower costs, where you can actually link these tools together. What we essentially call a workflow bundle, where you can have GlobiFlow, Podio Premium, Right Signature, and Share File all under one bundle. So if you guys want to learn more about that, again, as I mentioned, just please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I can speak more to that for you.
So Mark just had one comment there, and he writes, how about some GlobiMail? Yeah, so
GlobiMail is go ahead, Brett.
GlobiMail is a bit different. It's also built by the same guys who created GlobiFlow, but it's not really something that we would be covering. You'd be better off reaching out to those guys themselves and ask them for some resources. Maybe they should host some webinars. So.
Yeah. GlobiMail is unfortunately not included with the GlobiFlow package. It's its own tool, which is an email integration tool with Podio. Again, as Brett mentioned, it is created by the Globi Incorporated, and you can search it just by doing a Google search of GlobiMail if you guys want to trial that out. But again, it's not included with the GlobiFlow package that comes with the Podio Premium tier that you guys have. So that's something that we don't cover because we don't actually support that tool or use it, just like any other integration out there.
And then the last comment from Angela was if we would consider doing another webinar, but for the Australians, our friends down under. Yeah, maybe we could at some point. We would see what sort of demand we would get for that. Also, because it's a bit of a coordination effort, because Evan's in America and myself, I'm here in Copenhagen. So, but perhaps in future. But definitely, Angela, I know I've been in touch with you before, so maybe we can take this offline. And then finally, Kat asks, is Right Signature included with Podio Premium? And the answer is no, it's not. But reach out to us if you want to talk more about what the options are for that and getting you set up with Right Signature, because as you see, it is integrated with GlobiFlow, and also then you can have some workflows coming from Podio. You're welcome. Right, guys, thank you so much for joining. It's been great. And maybe we'll see you guys again soon. And we'll be sure to send out the recordings to everyone. Thanks and have a nice day.
Thank you, guys.